my name is Luann Pygott. I'm a beauty guide with Lime Life by Al Cohn, and I'm going to have a little fun today. I'm going to put on my primer spray, and I'm going to do a little vintage makeup for you. I'm going to do a 1930s makeup look. I actually did this in October before. I was working, I did the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, but we are challenged in my team today, my Lime Life team, to do a vintage look, and I was going to do another era, but I really liked 30s because it's so distinctive. It's very different, and especially with the eyebrows. It's mostly the eyebrows that are different. So I thought I would do that again. So I'm going to go ahead and put on foundation. Now, they didn't have a foundation like this. This was invented in 1963. This is brush number 18, by the way. And they didn't have this, but mostly in that era, they would have just put on powder, because that's what they had. But I am going to go ahead and put on the makeup, and we're just going to pretend like my natural skin. And then we're going to put on powder, because my skin does not flawless enough to not put this on. This will give me a flawless look. This is 50% pigment, as opposed to 18 to 23% in any other brand. This is the professional makeup that the makeup artists use in Hollywood on the stars. Hollywood, Broadway, stage, film, theater, runway models, television. This is the actual foundation they use and have used since the 1960s when it was created. And the reason they are still using this is because they have never made a better one. It is made with a plant-based wax, no harsh chemicals in it, and it gives you the look of natural skin without looking like you have caked up makeup on. So I'm doing the 1930s today, if you missed it in the beginning. And they didn't have this particular foundation in the 1930s. It was invented in 1963. But it's only been available to the general public for 5 years. Before, it was just sold to professional makeup artists, the stage and film industry, to use on the stars, because this is the most natural looking full coverage makeup on the planet, and it still is. So that's why you've probably never heard of it, unless you've just heard of it recently. So it's only been available to the general public for 5 years. Then I'm going to go ahead and put on concealer. Now, in that era, they didn't contour, they didn't highlight, they probably didn't put concealer on, but I have to. They would have put probably foundation under their eyes. I don't know if there was concealer in the 1930s, but I have got to do something with my dark circles. So I will be putting on actual concealer. You can just pretend it's foundation. Oh, like I said, they probably wouldn't use foundation either. They'd use powder. But we're just going to do this and pretend that my eyes are naturally, and my skin, we're going to pretend it's naturally like this, because it is supposed to look like natural skin. So I'm getting that really paper thin. I mean, just as thin as I can get it, so it's not caked on and it doesn't settle into fine lines and wrinkles. You just barely put any on. It gives you full coverage, but you don't have it caked on where it doesn't look, you know, fake. It doesn't look like you just put icing on your face or spackling. Okay, I knew as soon as I started this, my washer was going to beat. Well, it can just beat till I'm done. It's just too bad. Okay, I am going to go ahead and highlight here, even though they did not do that in that era. I'm not going to do contour, though. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to put on some powder. They would have had, in that era, the 1930s, they would have had colorless powder. So I'm going to put on colorless powder using brush number 1. That's our translucent powder. And you're just going to, again, they wouldn't have had foundation. They would have had, let's just pretend this is my natural skin, and they would have just put some colorless powder on their face. And I'm just doing a 1930s look for fun. Just for fun. So I have something to do. And plus my Lime Life team, they're challenging us to do something different every day. And this is today's look, to do a vintage makeup anywhere from the 1920s on. So I picked the 30s because I kind of like, you can tell it's something different because of the eyebrows. Now the eyebrows in that era, I will tell you, they mostly plucked their eyebrows away. They plucked them, or sometimes they would even shave them off, and then they would draw them on. They would draw them up a lot higher, and they didn't do a peak. They just did a round moon, like that. I'm not plucking my eyebrows out. No, I'm not. We're going to pretend. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and then I'm probably just going to use concealer to hide my actual eyebrows. I did this before in October where I glued my eyebrows down and put concealer over it. And that's a lot of work. It feels really weird. And it doesn't completely hide them anyway. So I'm sure there are techniques that do. But I don't want to go to all that much work. Let's make this a little simpler. So I'm going to, well, I put powder on my eyes. So let's just use the powder I have on my eyes. Then I'm going to use, they would probably have just used a little shadow or a little, I don't know if they had pencils back then, just to do a real simple eye look. But I'm going to use this eyeshadow right here, real dark brown. It is called number 27 Levita Mocha. And I'm going to use number 14 Angled Brow Brush. And I'm going to do my brows. I'm going to do one other thing first. They would have put blush on. And you know, they didn't have a lot of options back then. Mostly, they probably had red. Because that's what they had, red powder. So I'm going to use that. Only they would have just put so much on. You know, they wouldn't have, hopefully wouldn't have gone too crazy. Now, the 1920s, they were putting a circle of blush right here. And really peaking their lips. By the 30s, they had moved blush back a little further, so I'm going to do that. Look, one tap. Oh, my word. Okay. But this would have been more the kind of real bright red they would have had in the 30s. And all you would do is just put less of it on. Okay, I've got way too much on my brush. Because I'm going to look, woo. All right, let's clean it off my brush. And then we'll take what I have here and move it around. Because I don't need that much. So if you get it too dark, too bright, you can just take a clean brush and brush it away. Or you can take your other brush and put some more white powder. So that's way too much. That's an intense blush, boy, let me tell you. Our colors have so much pigment, you don't hardly need any of them. That blush will last 2 or 3 years. And then I'm going to take this number 1 again. And I'm going to go back to some more translucent powder and put on top of it to kind of just calm that down a little bit. And then I'm going to, let's actually brush it and not just put the powder on top. There we go. That's better. Brush a little bit of it away. Otherwise, I'm just going to look like sunburned. Really bad. Okay, and again, I don't have contour. They didn't do all of that. They didn't contour. They put blush on their cheeks. They put red lipstick on. They didn't use, they did not use lashes, I don't believe. And so, there we go. Now I'm going to use my setting spray. You could also use water, but setting spray will make it set. Spraying that down on my little palette, and I'm dipping my brush in that to get the brush wet. And then I'm going to go in that dark brown eyeshadow. Oh, that's actually not the color I'm using. I'm using Ashen for Trouble. Well, yeah, I'm still going to stick with Ashen for Trouble. I'm trying to decide if I need to do darker. Okay, and they did the thinnest eyebrows. I mean, the thinnest eyebrows you can possibly imagine. In a curve. So I'm just going to do the top of my eyebrow here. I'm going to go to the darker color. That's not dark enough. Because I'm not really doing it on top of my eyebrow. I'm doing it above my eyebrow. It needs to be darker. But seriously, they just did this. They really colored in their brows. Holy water's on the music playing right now. I love that. Holy. It's like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. The sound of a symphony in my ears. Well, I just broke up all my shadow there. I'm going to have to fix that. Holy water on my skin. Holy water on my skin. Like holy water. Trying not to peek it. I like so much to do a peek there. It's hard not to do it. Okay, there we go. My shadow is at the very end and it's crumbling over here. Okay. So I see if they're fairly even. Not too bad. Okay. Not too bad. Alright, so let me show you real quick. What do we do when our shadow crumbles? Or our blush? Okay, see right here? See right there? It's falling apart right there. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm going to spray. This is alcohol. 70% alcohol. You might not want to use your alcohol for this right now. I'm going to save it for other issues. But I needed one spray. Then I'm going to take a napkin and I'm going to press that in there. really tight, and the tighter you press it, the better. And the alcohol will evaporate, and it'll be pressed in there again. It won't be crumbly anymore. It's so simple to fix. And I usually press it and then move it to a dry place on the napkin and do it again, because it works much better that way. So here we go. Did I get that over there? I don't know if I got that spot over there. Okay, here we go. See, I pressed it right back in there, and then that'll dry, and it won't be loose anymore or crumbly. All right, so now I'm going to take concealer number 2, which is the one that matches my skin tone. I think that's the one I want to use. I'm going to take concealer brush number 6, and that is the one that matches my skin tone. And then I'm going to see if I can cover the brows. I decided not to try to glue them down this time, but just conceal them. Let's see how that works. Oh, I think that's going to be good enough for this. Okay. So I'm just covering my natural brow. I think I might go to, let's put in concealer 0, the one I have under my eyes. Let's mix, it's the lightest one. Let's mix a little of that in there, because the brows are dark, and so I think I need some lighter color. That's as good. That's just as good as gluing it down, I think. Feels really weird gluing your eyebrows down. It's like you can't, you know, go like that. They're stiff. It's a really strange feeling. But I think that's just good right there. Okay, so there we go. Our crazy raised, thinner than paper eyebrows that they would have done in the 1930s. But they didn't just cover their brows like I'm doing. They actually plucked them out. They plucked them to where, if you look at the movies of the actresses from the 1930s, they have like pencil thin eyebrows. And a lot of times they're just drawn on. Or they plucked their brows so thin that there was just this thin microscopic line. Depends on what brows they had and what they had to work with. They either plucked them all out and drew them on, or they just plucked them to the thin line. Go look at the actresses from the 1930s movies, and that's what they did. They hardly have any eyebrows. Okay, I'm trying to brush it away from there. Okay, that's not bad. It's a little light. Okay, let's go back with my skin color again. Tap that on top. Hope you all are doing well. Everyone is staying home, watching videos. Aren't you kind of glad you don't live in the 1930s? Makeup-wise. Makeup-wise. Anyway. Okay, so then the other thing they did is the 1920s had dark, look what I did. They had dark eyeshadow. That was that napkin that had that brown on there. They had dark, dark, dark eyeshadow. Super dark eyeshadow. And so, let me get my concealer again. When they got to the 30s, they stopped with the super, super dark, like black eyeshadow. They got away from that, and they started, well, I got it over here too, at least they met. They started doing more of a light pastel eyeshadows, and they had a few colors. Let me get the translucent powder again and put that here again, because I'm trying to cover up that boo-boo I just made. Okay. I think I'm also going to put this translucent powder top of my brow, so this doesn't brush off. Just barely. I don't want that to come off. I want that set. I don't know if that looks that good, but from a distance, it might look accurate. Okay, so then I'm going to use a real pale color. This is actually the one I did when I did it before. It worked out really well. So I'm going to use this color Blue Violet. It looks really bright and really intense, but if you just barely put any on, it's not going to be. This is from last year's spring palette called Fresh Picked. I'm not sure if this palette's still available. It might be. If they have any left, it might be available. But we should be coming out with a new spring, probably, palette. We'll be coming out with new stuff for spring. I don't know exactly what we'll have. But we will be coming out with new stuff for spring anytime here. Anytime here, probably next month. And so, let me put that brush up. I'm going to use brush number 20. And then I'm going to use just a little light amount. You could probably use that color too. That one didn't show up on me very well though. It blends right into my skin. So I'm going to use this blue, but they would have had light blue, light green, colors like that. And so I'm going to just pick a little of that up. And then they would have just put it on their lid. They didn't do stuff. They didn't do smoky eyes. They didn't do things for hooded lids. They did not. But because I have a hooded lid, I'm going to lift this up higher. They did a real simple, kind of a pastel eye in the 1930s. If they did makeup at all. I don't know that they wore makeup every day. I do believe they did it if they went out, you know, special occasion type of a thing. So I'm going up higher. Normally I would just stop at the crease. If you don't have hooded eyes, stop at the crease. But I have to go higher or you won't see it. If you have hooded eyes, go up higher so when you look straight ahead, see you see it a little bit. Hi Mary, how are you doing? Welcome. So I'm doing 1930s makeup because my team has a challenge to do a vintage makeup anywhere from the 20s on. So I picked the 1930s because it's kind of the most one that you can tell you actually did something different because of the eyebrows. So the eyebrows are crazy. And they had light kind of pastel eyeshadows that they only put on their lid. I'm just going up higher since you can't see it on me otherwise. Now, in that era, they would have had a real light, or they would have had a eyeliner as well, like a kohl eyeliner. I believe they did. I'm just going up a little higher with that. I'm trying to make it match the other one. A little bit more up there. And this is a real bright blue, but I'm doing it like they would have done it in that era, not real bright. Just putting it on real lightly. Okay, there we go. There we are. Now I'm going to do, and clean my brush, a little eyeliner. Nope, let's put that there. A little black eyeliner. They would have used black eyeliner, and I don't think they would have done the eyeliner. I'm trying to remember. I don't think they would have done the eyeliner as heavy as they would have done it real heavy in the 20s. The 30s, I think they lightened it up. The 30s had a lighter look, and 20s was real heavy and dark because women had just started really wearing makeup that showed. Before the 20s, women kind of wore makeup in secret. You know, they didn't tell people they had makeup on. They would just tint their lips barely and tint their cheeks barely, where it was, they were trying to get away with it where you couldn't tell they had makeup on, where it just looked real natural. You know, oh no, my cheeks are just pink. So they did. So in the 20s, when they started saying, you know, why are we doing it in secret, they went kind of wild and they started wearing dark black on their lids and real thick eyeliner because, you know, it was a new freedom that they hadn't had to be able to wear makeup without, you know, being forbidden. And then in the 30s, they started lightening it up like this a little bit and going crazy with the brows. With the brow plucking. And I'm just going to do this. They probably would have, I don't know if they would have lined all the way. Still going to make this a little light. I'm going to go a little further than I normally do. Like 3/4 of the way. But keep it kind of light. And in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s even, they had the red lipstick. That's what they had. That's what they wore. That's what they used. They didn't have a lot of choices. They might have had some pink at some point, but mostly they wore red lipstick. Red, red, red. And so I'm going to wear Cherry Pie. Now, they did not have liquid lipsticks, of course. They had, oh, they're behind me. Oh, here we go. They had lipstick like this in red, but they did not have shiny lipstick. They had matte. All their lipstick was matte, even though it was this style. It wasn't liquid. It was this style lipstick, but they didn't have shiny stuff in it. It was matte red. So I'm going to use our matte red. They didn't use lip liner. They just used lipstick. But because this gives me a matte finish, this is what I'm going to use. Although they do say a lot of women put Vaseline on their lips to undo the matte look. But I'm going to go ahead and stick with the matte this time. You could just use a shiny red lipstick and pretend they put Vaseline on it, but Let's do matte. And again, I'm not going to use a liner because they didn't have that. And they did more of a round lip look, and they would have overlined their lips a little. Get them the same. Okay. Okay, and here. Yeah, they had some intense color. All right, then I do think they would have had some mascara. They put something black on their lashes. So I'm going to do curl my lashes. I'm going to put some mascara on my lashes. And then, before I do that, I'm going to spray with a finishing spray. And then we're going to be done with the 1930s. Okay, mascara in black. This is a One Step Fiber Mascara by Lime Life by Alcone. Lime Life, by the way, invented the fiber mascara. This one will not, the little fibers will not flake off. They won't end up on your face at the end of the day. They will lengthen and thicken your lashes. This is not waterproof mascara, but it is smudge proof. Fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Okay, this doesn't particularly match anything I'm wearing, although this looks good with this little band here. The lipstick, no, does not match what I'm wearing, but that's okay. I didn't do it to match what I'm wearing. I did it to do a 1930s look. And I guess, you know, in the 1930s, and 20s and 40s, when they only had red lipstick, they didn't have their lipstick match their clothes or whatever they were wearing. It was just red. They wanted red lips. They all had red lips, and they were matte because they only had matte lipstick, unless they put a little Vaseline on their lips, which sometimes they did. But they only made lipsticks in matte, and originally they only came in red, and eventually you were able to get like a pink. But there weren't a lot of shades of lipstick. And there weren't a lot of shades of blush. Pretty much blush was a red powder, like a cherry red powder. And then you had red lipstick. And they probably all used the same sort of red substance for dyeing cosmetics back then. So it's probably all same color of red. Standing in your love, your love. Just putting this on. You can put more than one coat on if you want more. Oh, hi, how are you doing, Karen? I'm doing 1930s makeup look. Look at my eyebrows. That's what they did in the 1930s. They either plucked their eyebrows all the way out, or they plucked them so thin. If you look at the actresses from the movies in that era, hardly had any eyebrows. But I did not pluck my eyebrows out. I'm not doing that. I just covered them with concealer, and they're sort of kind of covered. You know, it's just to kind of give you the impression. And they used matte red lipstick and kind of red blush and pastel eyeshadow in that era. Only just like on the lid, like I have it, like that. If they wore makeup at all, a lot of people in 30s didn't wear makeup. Probably for a special occasion to go out or something. If they wore makeup at all. And if they did, this is kind of what it would have looked like. Okay, there we go. There's my 1930s look. How's it look? Okay, I'm gonna go into my stories, and I'm gonna do a little different look there, because we actually had 2 challenges in the team today. We had one from Everglitz, which is the bigger team, that had us do a spring look for your eyes. And then the smaller group that I'm in, had us do a vintage look. So this is my vintage 1930s look. Go try something fun with your makeup. If you want to be color matched or skin type match, or get some information on becoming a beauty guide yourself, put a message in the comments. I would be happy to help you. No obligation, no pressure, but I would be happy to answer your questions. If you need any refills on anything, if you've ordered anything, just let me know. And until a few minutes from now, when I do another one of my stories, and I'm going to come back in a few minutes also and do the story, the children's story for today. That's going to be fun too. So until then, may you have a good day, stay indoors, and until later, goodbye.